Parts of this levee in southeast Missouri are set to be destroyed in the next 24 hours in hopes of relieving flood pressure on CAIRO and other river communities. Good evening. This is a special edition of News 3. We will be on the next half hour. A lot of flood news again tonight, so we're running school closings, shelters, and road closings at the bottom of your screen. We begin with the Army Corps of Engineers announcement less than 2 hours ago that it will blow up part of the Birds Point levee starting later this evening. That will allow the swollen Mississippi River to flow into the Birds Point spillway. The water will flood 130,000 acres of Missouri farmland and destroy dozens of homes there. The levee is set to be breached starting as early as 9 o'clock tonight. There will be a series of explosions with others scheduled for overnight and then again tomorrow. The Corps predicts blowing a 2-mile wide hole in the levee will offer between 3 and 4 feet of flood relief at CAIRO, Paducah, and other river communities.
Right now, the system is under tremendous stress, and the CAIRO gauge continues to rise, and it's just going to continue to rise until we operate it. We're supposed to operate it at 61 and rising, and it's 61.4, and so this is the right time to operate it.
The man in charge of that operation, General Michael Walsh with the Army Corps of Engineers, says the Corps is double checking to make sure the floodway is fully evacuated before that operation goes forward. People in Alexander County have been anxiously anticipating this decision. Blowing the levee will alleviate the pressure on the system at CAIRO. Governor Pat Quinn and many state leaders visited the city today to see the flooding up close. News 3's Emily Finnegan was there. And Emily, how bad is it?
It's bad, Eden, and city officials say that it only gets worse with each passing day, and that's why they wanted that levee blown days ago. The Army Corps of Engineers insists this decision is not just about CAIRO, but the damage happening there is a good example of the types of problems occurring in other parts of the levee system.
The immense pressure the Ohio River is putting on the levee at CAIRO is evident far from the flood wall. Sand boils like this one have popped up all over town. Mayor JUDSON Childs is worried.
I'm concerned every time I see a drop of rain. I'm concerned. You know, I would like to get this over with.
Childs has had a lot of concerns in the past few days as rain falls across our region. Emergency management officials explain that will continue to be a problem.
It is still rising at the CAIRO gauge, and it will be some time before we can see that relief.
Monday, the National Guard and Army Corps of Engineers built another berm at the south end of town. Since the water can't go through the levee or over the top of it, it's coming up through the streets. The city is virtually empty. Childs ordered a mandatory evacuation on Saturday.
I'd much rather evacuate and nothing happen than to stay here and lose lives.
When the water goes down and people can return home, Governor Quinn vows CAIRO will get help.
We will spend whatever necessary to fight this flood. That has to be our #1 objective.
Now, this is historic record flooding in CAIRO and in the levee system, Mississippi and Ohio as a whole, right?
It is, yes. And to give you an idea of exactly what we're talking about, this is the 3rd largest watershed in the world. And all the officials associated with this project say this is the worst flooding the area has ever experienced. So the problems they're seeing at CAIRO are also happening down the river in Fulton County, Kentucky, for one. And all of that played into the decision to intentionally breach the Birds Point levee.
Okay, we'll see what happens over the next few hours. Thank you, Emily. Not far north of CAIRO, the overnight rains were too much for a levee near Olive Branch. The Dogtooth Bend levee broke this morning, making major flooding in and around the Alexander County town even worse. Floodwaters have now overwhelmed the county highway department, which had been serving as a command area for the flood fight in Alexander County. You need a big truck if you want to drive around most roads near Olive Branch now, and some folks are packing what they can and heading out of town. At this point, evacuations are still voluntary, but the flooding getting worse in Olive Branch after that levee break. In Pope County, authorities are closing the floodgates in Golconda. That means no one will be able to drive in or out of the town the next couple of days. The Ohio River is supposed to crest at Golconda at 57 feet on Wednesday. That's 2 feet higher than major flood stage. News 3's Andy Waterman was in Pope County today. He's in the newsroom now with the latest from there. Andy.
Eden officials say they've never had to close the floodgates before, even during the flood of 1997 when the Ohio crested at 53 feet. But now the threat of the river coming into town is just too much. It seems like an odd time for IDOT crews to be doing road work. But workers are actually removing pavement in Golconda to make room to close the town's floodgates.
Tomorrow, the final floodgate will be put in Golconda. That'll make actually Golconda kind of like an island in here.
Pope County Emergency Management Director Chris Hahn says if residents are going to leave their homes, now is the time. The only way people will be able to get back into town is by boat or walking.
In many cases, it's best probably just to go ahead and leave. Unfortunately, I hate to say that because I know if it's my home, I'd want to stay as long as I could too. But in some cases, you're not going to do anything that's going to preserve that home. You just need to get out and preserve your life.
If people plan to stay, Sheriff Jerry Suit says police officers will be stationed in town and out of town. He says the county's 911 dispatch will be down, but they can be reached on their normal numbers.
Still call the same number, 683-4321. I've got another number, 683-3141. Still call those numbers. We're still going to come to you. We're still going to, we're still out there. Your stuff's still important to us, and we're going to make it happen for you.
Officials say there are some homes in the county that have already been overtaken by water, but they need volunteers to help sandbag areas that are being threatened. Hahn says with a little help from the state and Mother Nature, they'll be okay.
We're just hoping and praying that it crests and heads on back down.
The Emergency Management Agency has opened a shelter at the Pope County Grade School. And again, if you need to get in touch with the Pope County Sheriff's Department, their 911 system will be down. So you will need to dial 683-4321 or 683-3141. Reporting in the newsroom, Andy Waterman, News 3.
Andy, thanks. Much more flood coverage still ahead. First to Jim for the latest on today's rain, only adding to the problem and the river levels. Jim.
And the rain continues, Eden. Looks like we are in for a moderate to at times heavy rain throughout the rest of tonight. I think it will be tomorrow morning and maybe late tomorrow morning before this rainmaker moves out. We'll check radar in just a minute, but I did want to run down the Crest forecast numbers. And we're really just looking at the Ohio here because everything else, the Mississippi, even the Big Muddy being listed by the Corps right now and the USGS as already having crested. And it will either hold or fall, but the Ohio is still rising. So we run down the numbers. We start in Shawneetown, current stage 54.7. Flood stage 33. The Crest forecast for Wednesday in the afternoon or evening at 56 feet. That will be the second highest crest on record. 1937, of course, being the crest of record, a little over 65.5 feet there. We move on down to Golconda, 55.5 feet today. Flood stage is at 40. The crest forecast for Thursday morning at 57.7. One of the things going on different from the flood in the 90s is that it's raining here. The floods in the 90s, both the Mississippi and Ohio, we were dealing with rains in other places, and all we had to deal with was the rivers. This time it's raining here. So even the tributaries, the floodplains, the creeks where that water would normally back up is having a much harder time. Some of that means we're going to see higher crest levels. It also means we're going to see a longer duration flood event. Even once the flooding starts to drop, we see those crests. We're going to stay above flood stage for quite some time. Moving on down the river to Paducah, current stage 53.9, flood stage is 39. The crest is forecast for Friday morning at 58.5. Again, the second highest crest of record. And moving to CAIRO, current stage, and this was just updated late this afternoon, up another 0.2 to 61.4. Flood stage is 40. The crest forecast for 63 feet on Thursday. That will be the highest crest on record, breaking the record set in 1937. The top of the protection, and this is kind of key, we're talking about a 63-foot crest, top of protection in CAIRO, 64 feet. A whole lot of rain tonight and just a little bit upstream could move that number around, and of course we'll get those updates to you as soon as they come in from the USGS. Checking radar now and looking at the rain, of course, rain all across southern Illinois, southern Indiana, and parts of western Kentucky. That's key because all of that water coming back down the river, but also watching what is moving through Arkansas and southern Missouri. Another round of moderate to heavy rain is expected to move into the region later tonight, and I still think 1 to 1.5 inches is a pretty good forecast for what we should expect from here through the rest of tonight. Some spots maybe a little less, some spots could see more than that. The good news is after tomorrow morning, the amount of significant rain in the forecast really for the rest of the week drops off considerably. The next rain event looking like it's going to time out for Thursday, and that one looks much lighter. But a lot of rain yet to come tonight, and certainly going to prolong the flooding if it doesn't actually make it worse on the Ohio. I'll have a full look at the forecast coming up in just a few minutes.
Thank you, Jim. In Williamson County, leaders have now issued a disaster declaration. Take a look at the Heron-Culp Road. Drivers slowing down this afternoon as water covers the roadway here. Water also covers parts of Route 148 between Heron and Ziegler right now. And the Big Muddy River is creeping ever closer to the bridge between Blairsville and Hearst. The Hearst police chief says IDOT is keeping a close eye on the situation there and may have to close that bridge if the water gets just a bit higher. Our flooding coverage continues straight ahead. We'll head to Hardin County, where, like many places, the high waters are forcing people to go to extremes to stay in their homes. You're watching News 3.
You're watching News 3 in HD, your Southern Illinois news leader, with Eden Schultz, meteorologist Jim Razor, and Darren Kennard.
Hardin County is under a voluntary evacuation because of flooding. It's becoming harder and harder for people to stay there right now. The Ohio River is quickly taking over homes in Elizabethtown. News 3's Kristen Craig joins us in the newsroom with an update there. Kristen.
Well, Eden, not only is the river taking over homes, it's flooded the Elizabethtown sewage system. Communication is also a challenge. Phones are unreliable at best, and local officials are even having problems with the radios. In the past 24 hours, the problems have really intensified. Walking the plank brings new meaning to Rima Robertson. It's now the only way to enter her home. Out back, the situation is just as bad.
Yesterday, we could still see steps on the deck.
Now all 10 steps are submerged and her 6-foot deck is almost covered. The renowned floating restaurant, now closed, is only feet away, and barges are also too close for comfort.
I've been seeing barges pushing full loads of coal, and there were waves coming up and over the deck.
As she watches the river quickly take over her home, she says this morning was the first time someone came to help. Local residents came in the nick of time to move her out. While water has already invaded the homes closest to the river, neighbors are banding together in a last-ditch effort to save homes.
Just seems like we're not prepared here, and so this is very last minute, and the people that are helping us today are all family and friends, not emergency personnel.
Oh, sorry. Becky Cook says she's disappointed in how officials have responded.
It just seems like we waited till the last second, and then there just wasn't enough help or enough supplies.
Neighbor Susan Hemphill is also frustrated.
I don't want to see, not only myself, but my neighbors and stuff go under this water without any help from somebody. There's people out there to help, and they don't try to get them into town.
The National Guard has arrived, and sandbags are being delivered into town by the hundreds. Volunteer sandbagger Roy Matthews says they ran out of sandbags last night, and it was just too little too late.
When you stack up 4 high sandbags and it's over the bags in 4 hours, what are you going to do? I sandbag here 3 different floods, 93, 97, and this year. This is the worst.
Becky says she, along with others, underestimated this flood and fear it's going to get considerably worse.
We love the river, love living on the river. Not sure about the future right now, but it's just a shame.
County leaders have signed a disaster declaration. They are working out of the Rosaclare Fire Department, where they tell me they are now working with the National Guard. A shelter has also been set up for Hardin County evacuees that's located at the Rosaclare Apostolic Church. In the newsroom, Kristen Craig, News 3.
The Red Cross is stepping in to help people forced from their homes by flooding across southern Illinois. There are shelters set up at Shawnee Community College in Ullen right now, Waldo Baptist Church in Metropolis, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Carbondale, and the Irma Hayes Center in Carbondale. Sandy Webster from the Red Cross is here to talk about the flood response. And are you going to need to set up more shelters in the coming days, do you think?
Oh, absolutely. We've been working on that this evening, trying to identify new places on higher ground and trying to get volunteers that might be able to man those shelters. It's getting a little bit harder and harder to get the shelter sites because so many roads are closing, and we've got to get the people to be able to reach that.
And that's one of the calls you want to put out here tonight is you need volunteers just to staff the shelters right now.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. We try to run 3 8-hour shifts. That's, you know, through the night and through the day. So, you know, maybe they can only man it for a couple hours or 4 hours, but knowing that you may be going to Hardin County to Elizabethtown, or you might be going to Shawnee College, or you might be going to Carbondale to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, we just don't know. And then as we try to get some new shelters or additional shelters open.
And you were saying that this is really still a developing disaster because the rain is still coming down, the waters are still rising, right?
Right. We're still in the safety and protection mode for people, to give them a safe place to stay and food to eat. And then, of course, if they need medication, we do encourage people to go to safety as the authorities instruct. And take your pillow. If you're going to a Red Cross shelter, take a blanket and your pillow, and please do not forget your medication. That is critical.
So right now, the shelter, food, and water, the Red Cross is trying to provide, and then down the road, in terms of recovery, you'll help people who have flood-damaged homes, etc.
Right, right. That's going to be a little while. I don't think this water is going to go away for a couple of weeks, but we will be in that stage. So until then, we'll keep them safe and fed, and anybody else that would like to help, they certainly, you know, can call our office to volunteer or to make a donation, or they can call, just do redcross.org and make a donation, and all of that for the Disaster Relief Fund, and and it will cover our floods and everyone that we're assisting.
I think we have those numbers for the Red Cross. If you'd like to call the local office and make a donation, 529-1525 or 800-272-2984. And Sandy, you told me that the best donation is cash because you can use that to buy what you need and get it where it needs to be.
Right, exactly, depending on whether they need medication or the food that we're buying, or you know, just even the blankets and the cots that we are being used.
And another thing we talk about during these kinds of disasters is the psychological impact it has on people who are at these shelters, who are displaced, who are going through the trauma of maybe losing their place, their home. Is that a situation here? Have you seen that? Do you have people in place to deal with that?
Absolutely. We've had Red Cross disaster crisis counselors at the shelter all night and all day at Shawnee. And then we have one that goes around to the smaller shelters, because the smaller shelters, they've been able to go somewhere during the day and then come back, as well as the Red Cross nurses going shelter to shelter.
And how are people doing? I mean, are we hearing a lot of stories of people having problems or people getting by okay?
Well, you know, I was at the Shawnee College shelter yesterday, and I was amazed at how quickly it has become an extended family, with everyone in that shelter helping each other, and you know, even though they don't know each other, they're becoming an extended family, and that's kind of amazing to me.
Well, Sandy, we thank you for joining us to discuss the flood response by the Red Cross, and we wish you good luck as you'll be busy, certainly in the coming days and weeks.
Right, and we hope that other people will join us and be a part of it. I think it's because it is our community helping each other. It really is important that we're there for each other.
So we want to show you those numbers one more time before we let go. Sandy here, 529-1525 or 800-272-2984 if you want to volunteer to staff a shelter or help out in some other way, or if you would like to make a donation to the Red Cross. We also have the list of shelters. We can show those again briefly for you. Shawnee Community College in Ullen, Waldo Baptist Church in Metropolis, and the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and the Irma Hayes Center in Carbondale. We thank Sandy Webster for joining us, and we'll be right back.